first tooth appeared in the bathroom sink on a Tuesday morning. It was hers. She felt the empty socket with her tongue. A raw, unfamiliar hollow where a healthy tooth had been just hours before. No blood, no pain. Just a perfect, clean extraction that defied every law of biology. Then, the second tooth fell out as she drank her coffee. A third tinked against her keyboard at work. Her body was shedding its own bones. Silently, painlessly, and with terrifying precision. This wasn't decay. It was a systematic, silent dismantling from the inside out. And the worst part? The empty spaces in her jaw didn't feel like loss. They felt expectant. At first, it was just a single tooth, then another appeared. Its enamel slick and cold to the touch, and another. This one, emerging with a faint, wet scratching sound from her gums. By her 32nd year, Sarah's mouth held a silent, agonizing forest of over 300 teeth, and they showed no sign of stopping. Sarah's story begins, like countless others, a happy child in Portland's suburbs, where summer days stretched endlessly. But beneath that ordinary surface, something else was already taking root. She'd endured all the childhood rites. The lost baby teeth, the braces, those awkward, gummy smiles. But on the cusp of her 16th birthday, a new, deep-seated ache took root in her lower right jaw. It wasn't sharp, but a dull, persistent throb that hummed beneath the bone. Her dentist, Dr. Mike Carter, dismissed it with a shrug, chalking it up to a troublesome wisdom tooth. The x-ray snapped into place on the lightbox with a metallic click, revealing not one wisdom tooth, but a tangled, shadowy cluster. The air in the sterile room suddenly felt thick and heavy with ozone, as if the film itself emitted a strange energy. A low, almost imperceptible hum seemed to emanate from the image, a vibration that made the fillings in his own teeth ache. He stared, paralyzed, at the impossible anatomy glowing before him. Carter was stunned by what he saw, something beyond any medical text he'd studied. He sent Sarah to a specialist who began the first of many surgeries. They extracted not one, but 17 extra, malformed teeth from her jaw, a grotesque harvest. The diagnosis was a compound odontoma, a rare, supposedly benign tumor of dental tissue. For 6 long years, Sarah clung to their assurance. She built a life on that fragile foundation. College, love, career, all flourished while something else took root. The truth was merely dormant, not destroyed. The ache had faded into a distant memory, a phantom pain he'd almost forgotten, until it returned, sharp and insistent, carving its way back into his consciousness. Time accelerated, days blurred into weeks, marked only by the growing, gnawing sensation. A metallic scent, like old pennies, filled the air where there should be none. Sarah's diary entries flickered across the screen. Quote, "A douche returned. Another surgery scheduled. Why is this happening?" It began as a familiar, dull pressure in her mouth. Then it sharpened into a needle-like agony piercing her upper palate. This time, the scan revealed a new growth. Not in her jaw, but rooted in the very roof of her mouth. Surgeons would later extract 28 distinct, tooth-like structures from the site. Sarah survived, but a profound dread took root. Her body wasn't just healing. It was becoming a grotesque production line for teeth. Sarah, you start to feel alien. You gaze into the mirror, seeing a normal face staring back. But beneath the skin, something fundamental has gone wrong. Something is growing, altering you from within. I'd lie awake, pressing my tongue to the roof of my mouth, terrified to feel a new, hard speck forming. The attacks became cyclical, a grim rhythm her body kept against her will. Every cycle brought a new ache, a fresh scan, another surgery. Her medical file swelled with each ordeal, a tangible record of her suffering, and within its pages, a single, impossible notation: 50 teeth, then 87, then 132. Each cluster was a bizarre, calcified pearl, a mass of enamel, dentin, and pulp. Some resembled tiny, misshapen teeth. Others were just grotesque lumps. The sterile air carried a faint, coppery scent as the pathologist's gloved hand entered the frame. In a sterile surgical theater, a gloved hand poured hundreds of pearly white objects onto a cold metal tray, their tiny forms clinking softly against the steel. Sarah's case began whispering through elite medical circles, a forbidden knowledge shared in hushed tones. Was this a genetic anomaly so profound it defied classification? Or perhaps a cruel biological glitch, embryonic cells destined to form teeth, trapped in a relentless, perpetual cycle of creation? Every specialist concurred on one unnerving fact. They'd never encountered a case so relentless, so disturbingly productive. The psychological strain was suffocating, a weight that fractured relationships and eroded sanity. How do you explain to the person you love that you might need another sudden, invasive surgery? The constant uncertainty left a metallic taste of fear, a dread that clung like damp hospital sheets. The financial ruin was absolute. The scars she bore, physical and psychic, were a cartography of agony. Sarah wasn't living. She was merely existing in the fragile, suffocating silences between cataclysms. Then, at 5:45 a.m., the fragile peace shattered. The air grew dense and metallic, and a deep, resonant thrum began to build in the walls, swelling into a heart-wrenching crescendo. The latest 3D scan of Sarah's skull appeared on screen, a galaxy of ghostly white shadows scattered across the bone. Each shadow marked another cluster, not isolated but spreading like a silent, internal infection. The imaging laid bare a truth more horrifying than anyone had dared imagine. This wasn't just deterioration, it was an invasion, captured in stark, chilling detail. Micro-odontomas, too small to feel but starkly visible on the scan, peppered her maxillary sinuses and traced her jawline. They weren't confined to dental tissue. They were embedded in the very architectural blueprint of her face. Her body wasn't just growing teeth in the wrong places. It was seeding them, like a field of terrible, bony wildflowers blooming from within. In the present, a single tear traced the contour of Sarah's cheek, catching the dim light. The surgeon called it diffuse dissemination, she whispered, the clinical term hanging like a death sentence in the still air. He said removing them would be like trying to pick every piece of gravel from a wet lawn, disfiguring, endless, and they would probably just grow back. For the first time, they told me they couldn't cut it all out. This was me. This is me. The very essence of Sarah's mystery had shifted. Surgery was no longer an option. This became a complete biological rewrite of her very code. The faint hope of a cure evaporated entirely. It was replaced by the grim, cold reality of perpetual management. A lifetime of constant, watchful monitoring had begun. Now, Sarah simply waits for the next tooth to announce itself. Today, she lives with a museum of her own body. Hundreds of extracted teeth, each a milestone of agony, stored in a small box. She is part of a global study, her DNA, a map for scientists hunting the biological switch that refuses to turn off. The search continues, a quiet, relentless hunt through the very code of her being. But for now, there is no answer, only the wait. Her story forces us to ask a haunting question. We think of our bodies as known territory, but what if something else knows the map better? But what if, deep within your marrow, your own biological blueprint is authoring a story you never consented to? What if you are, in the most literal sense, composed of something other than human, and there is no undoing this? I just wonder, what comes next?